Anyone who stops learning is old, whether at 20 or 80. Anyone who keeps learning stays young. Henry Ford. When was the last time you took time out of your day to actually develop yourself? Do you make personal development part of your daily life, or is it just an afterthought? If you're not regularly focusing on your own personal development, you really are losing out. Because as Henry Ford said, anyone who keeps learning stays young. You need to keep going. We need to constantly develop our skills. And if we're not putting time and effort into that, it's very easy to fall behind, or at the very least, not to excel in our businesses. So I personally make, or try to make, hands up, sometimes it doesn't happen, try to make my own personal development part of my daily routine. Sometimes that takes place in the morning, sometimes it takes place when I go to bed in the evening before I go to sleep, but I try to make time for it somewhere in the day. And I'm not talking about a lot of time, I'm talking about 5 or 10 minutes, maybe to read 10 pages in the book that I'm focusing on at the time. Because reading, for me personally, is one of the best ways that I find to develop myself. Now, when I say reading, it's not necessarily traditional reading. Sometimes I'll listen to audiobooks, particularly when I'm in the car, because I find that is a great time when I'm sat in the car by myself, really have nothing else to do. So I use that to listen to audiobooks, and I tend to jump between the audiobook version and the written version of the book that I'm going, and I just interchange them depending on what I'm doing at the time. So one of the best books I've read recently is a book called 10x is Easier Than 2x by Dan Sullivan and Dr. Benjamin Hardy. It's here on my shelf. And then go the rest of my books. Okay, so the book's brilliant. I'll clean up the mess afterwards. Okay, so now I want to run you through this book because it really has changed my thinking about the way I think about my business and the journey where I'm going. And I want to give you some of the biggest takeaways that I've taken from the book. So one of the first biggest takeaways I took away is that mindset is the biggest hurdle you will face. Okay, a lot of what we try and achieve can be instantly stopped if our mindset is not in the right place. So we really do need to get our mindset really lined up for success, so that it doesn't hold us back. Now, part of that is reframing our thinking so that we acknowledge the past because it's happened, but we don't dwell on it, and instead we focus on the future. Okay, so it's happened. It might have been good, it might have been bad, it might not have been ideal, but it has happened and it has led us to this point in time. We are never going to be able to change the past, so why waste your energy focusing on it? Instead, we look to the future, and our past is going to help us feed into that journey of us moving forward. So the third thing that I took away from the book relates directly to the title, and it's that when we think about 10 timesing what we do, and that might be income, or it might be a life achievement. If we think about it and where we want to be, and 10 times it, and then we work backwards, it becomes very clear straight away what is holding us back. So anything that is not going to lead us directly to 10xing, we can forget about. Okay, so a lot of us focusing on 2xing our productivity, 2xing our income, but in actual fact, those things that lead us to 2x will not lead us to 10x, and in fact will probably hold us back. So if we look at 10x and use that as the goal, and then look back about how we're going to get to 10x, we can instantly see what is going to hold us back, and what is not going to produce revenue, what is not going to help us reach our goals. Okay, so we can instantly then get rid of those things. And that makes the path to 10x a lot easier and a lot clearer, because we can now see those things that are going to lead us there, and anything that is not going to lead us there, we stop doing. And I mean that we stop doing because they are not serving us. Okay? Now, This sounds very, very fanciful, but one of the examples used in the book is that you have already 10x'd your life multiple times, okay? And this started the day you were born, okay? So the day you were born, you were not particularly mobile, you couldn't walk, you couldn't crawl. But in our minds as babies, we make that determination that we are going to become mobile, okay? And we, without realising it, we set that goal and we go, and the vast majority of us achieve that, and we start crawling around. We then do that again, and we 10x ourselves to get stood up and walk around the room, okay? We do it as youngsters when we go to school. If you think about all the things that you learned in school, you had next to no knowledge and experience when you went to school. When you came out of the other end, you were absolutely full of knowledge and experience, okay? You had 10x'd your life. You've then done that again repeatedly without thinking about it. So this is just about more focusing on where we want that 10x to go next. And when we get there, we'll 10x ourselves again. This is a lifelong journey to constantly aim for the next 10x, but whilst acknowledging that the things that hold us back, we can get rid of. Now, the other key piece that I picked up of the book is the difference between want and need. Okay, so a lot of us spend time thinking, I'm not going to buy a certain thing because I don't need it. Okay, and that in itself is a limiting belief. Okay, we don't need to do that. Okay, if you want something, that's okay. It's okay to want something, and you do not need to justify that to anybody. You do not need to justify that to yourself. It's very simple. If you want it and it's achievable for you, go and get it. Okay, if you want to buy a flash car, that's okay. If you want to take your family on a nice holiday, that is okay. You do not need to justify that to other people. Okay, so it's making that difference between that separation between what we want and what we actually need. We need food. Okay, we need relationships. Okay, we want a nice fancy car. We want that nice luxury holiday. Okay, but we don't need to justify this to anybody. It's okay to do that. So that's one of those are the biggest takeaways from the book that I've read recently. For those who missed it at the start, the book was 10x is Easier Than 2x by Dan Sullivan and Dr. Benjamin Hardy. I really recommend it, that you go out and get a copy and have a good read through. It really is life-changing. You'll really enjoy it and take a lot from it. So I'd love to know, what does your personal development look like? And if you've got any recommended books, I'm always looking for new books to read, as is everybody else. So what I'd really like is for you to drop any recommendations and details about what you do for personal development in the comments, and then we can network together and hopefully pick up things from each other. Have a great day.